Okay, we're gonna call the meeting to order. It's a regular assembly meeting of March 18th, 2024. Will the clerk call the roll?
Bob,
Here.
Rob,
Here.
Scott,
Here.
Thomas,
Here.
Jay,
Here.
Mark,
Here.
Donna. Okay, thank you.
Okay, we have a full assembly with Assemblymember Marsh zooming in from the herring boat. It's now time for the voluntary pledge of allegiance. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. I apologize for the 5-minute late start here. We had a little technical difficulty in our starting our last meeting, so I'll entertain a motion to approve the minutes from our last assembly meeting of March 4th.
So moved.
Second. If there's no changes, all those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Okay, we'll approve those minutes. And item 4, amendment and approval of the meeting agenda this evening, and entertain a motion to proceed as presented if there's no changes.
So moved.
Second. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye, okay. Public hearings, we have 4 public hearings this evening. First public hearing is for ordinance 2024-01. This is an ordinance amending section 16.10.160, required authorization for disposal of borough real property of the Petersburg Municipal Code to increase the assessed property value requirement for sale or exchange of borough property to be ratified by the voters of the Petersburg Borough. This is your chance to give public testimony on that ordinance. So if there's anybody in the room that would like to testify, please step to the podium and state your name and who you represent. And we do have a 5-minute time limit.
I'll be brave and go first. My name's Deborah O'Gara. My Tlingit name is Dejuk Suk. And I'm the newly elected president for Petersburg Indian Association. And I'm stepping forward to, as a representative of PIA, to speak in support of this amendment and encourage the council to continue to support it at the 1.5, or I know that there had been mention of bringing it up, bringing the cap up to 2 point, which I would also support. We're on the traditional lands of Sikakwan, and we at PIA support this ordinance and ask that you do continue to pass it and raise the amount of the assessed values to a more appropriate level than it was when it was first enacted several years ago, or actually several decades ago. And the purpose why we're supporting it is it will help to promote more simple sales of the land that belongs to the borough as well. And with that, we'll encourage development, which includes housing development, and sending it down or keeping it at its current level only increases a burden on our voters to actually vote that. And I think that the council is more than capable of approving that sales and really promoting and encouraging development of the lands that the borough owns. Thank you.
Okay, thank you for your testimony. Anyone else in the audience interested in testifying under the public hearing for ordinance 2024-01? Seeing none, I'll ask the clerk, is there anyone zooming in? Don't see any names, so.
No, there's no one.
Okay, thank you. So that public hearing is now closed. Second public hearing of this evening. This is a public hearing on ordinance 2024-02. An ordinance amending section 16.10.030 of the Petersburg Municipal Code to allow for disposal of borough land for a public benefit purpose. Anyone in the room willing or interested in testifying to this during this public hearing? Okay, seeing none, that public hearing is now closed. Brings us to the item C. This is a public hearing for ordinance 2024-03. This is an ordinance adjusting the fiscal year 2024 budget for known changes. Is anyone in the room that would like to testify under this public hearing for ordinance 2024-03?
I have someone on the line. I think they wanted to speak and I'm not sure for which one. They just popped in. So let me check and see.
Okay, well,
Okay.
zoom them in. Hello, do you hear us? CW? I'm
That
not
would
sure.
be, yeah, that should be Cindy Lynn. And Cindy, if you could press *6 on your phone, that should unmute you.
Hi.
Hello.
I wasn't able to put the numbers in. They wanted the meeting ID, so that's why there was the delay. I want to talk about two things that are on the agenda. I'm sorry you separated them by ordinance. Number one was a $60,000 removal for legal fees from the budget, which from my understanding has to do with an appeal of a 32-page decision by a Superior Court judge. Can
Well,
you let the public know
Can I explain
where
something?
we...
Excuse me,
Don't
ma'am.
correct me while I'm on my 3 minutes, please. Where
Don't
are
worry,
we
you
at
will
with...
get your time. I just want to clarify where we're at on the meeting agenda. We're in
I
public
couldn't get
hearings.
through, sir.
We're in public hearings right now, and this is on ordinance 2024-03, and this is about the budget. So what you're talking about, the $60,000 in that supplemental budget is correct. So, you will get your full time
When do I start?
right now.
Okay, why did you have to clarify that? I was on the money.
I wasn't sure what part of the agenda you wanted to talk to, ma'am.
Well, I don't have the agenda in front of me, sir, because I don't have the internet. The $60,000 you're requesting for additional legal fees having to do with part of Mr. Koenig's case is an appeal request, apparently legally, from what I understand, from a 32-page decision where Mr. Koenig was favorably, the decision was favorable in his direction for us as far as freedom of information. So you're requesting an actual appeal. And I wanted to know, and the public does, where are we at with all these lawsuits? There's several with Mr. Koenig, and there's one with Chief Kerr. Apparently that one hasn't really gone anywhere. And how much money is the insurance company paying? How much is the public paying? And what are we paying for? An appeal seems over the top, and Mr. Walsh is speaking with his legal hat on regarding these legal matters, which I think he should be recused from doing that. The other issue has to do with the selling the city property below market value. I wanted to say that public benefit, that term has absolutely no definition. Industrial development could be for our benefit. Anything could be. Also, the term affordable housing, there's no guidelines whatsoever on what that means. Also, the process of the application before planning and zoning, the neighbors don't actually get the application of what the people plan to do with the property, and that's not a legally binding document. They can change their mind, seems to me. What happens if the project doesn't go through, they run out of money, and it's sold to another party, maybe from out of town, that has a commercial interest? Is there any protection of that happening? Also, since I've been here, 2 major projects had just gone through. Each was handled differently. One was the Tlingit Haida, and the other was Severson's, as far as what the public ended up having to pay for, if any, on roads, water, sewer, and electric. If you can find out the history and share with us, The only time we can ask questions is at the 12:30 period once a month. Today was one for half an hour. Also, there's a master plan for every city through planning and zoning of what they hope to project over time of the density of development. With projects having the zoning changed frequently, how are we altering what Petersburg is going to look like? Thank you so much for your time.
Okay, thank you, ma'am. And I suggest if you have any questions of any issues with the borough, just to call the borough office, and they would be more than willing to answer any questions they can. Okay, thank you.
I'd like to have the public know what you're thinking, and we don't. Thank you.
The information's available. Thank you for your testimony. Okay, we're back to, this is a public hearing still for ordinance 2024-03. Is there anyone else in the audience that would like to testify or make comments under this public hearing? No one else calling in?
No, there's no one.
Okay, that public hearing is closed. Next public hearing, the last one of the evening, is a public hearing for ordinance 2024-04. This is an ordinance amending section 10.20.010, discharge of firearms prohibited of the Petersburg Municipal Code to remove prohibition of discharge of firearms in the area of Frederick Point East subdivision. Is there anyone in the room or calling in that would like to testify under this public hearing? Okay, you have a 5-minute limit. Please state your name and who you represent.
Thank you, sir. My name is Almont Lindsay. I represent myself. Dear Borough Assembly, my name is Almont Lindsay. I own Lot 6, Block 2 in the Frederick Point East neighborhood. I'm asking that you all please do not repeal the no discharge of firearms law in that area. I want you all to ask yourselves if you would like strangers or people you know discharging firearms around your homes or cars. I am guessing most of you would not. Thus, I ask you humbly, please, do unto others as you would have them do unto you. Love your neighbor as you love yourselves. The Tongass National Forest is millions of acres. You don't need to open up this little neighborhood where some people have lived peacefully for 30 years to gun violence. St. Matthew chapter 5, verse 7. Blessed are the merciful, for they shall obtain mercy. Why not use the money paid in property taxes from the Frederick Point East property owners to replace the no discharge of firearm signs on each end of the neighborhood that have been riddled with bullets with large, bright signs making it explicitly clear where the no discharge of firearms area is? James chapter 2, verse 13. For he shall have judgment without mercy that has showed no mercy, and mercy rejoice against judgment. Lastly, please let the Frederick Point East neighborhood be a habitat for humanity, not a habitat for gun violence. Thank you very much.
Thank you for your testimony this evening. So is there anyone else that would like to testify? I know your name, but for the record, would you please state your name and who you represent?
I'm Ralph Strickland. I represent myself, and I understand the man's point, but there's miles and miles of land there that is prime subsistence habitat. And most of those homes are down on the waterfront. And I don't feel as though people will be pursuing and hunting down around cabins. And if they do come upon it, they will be going other directions. And you're not excluded from discharging firearms in that area. If you go hunting and you see an animal, you're more than welcome to pursue it on the uphill side of that road. But if it steps off the downhill side, you can't pursue it. And there's miles back in that Pan Creek Valley that isn't anywhere near anybody's homes. And it's, if they want to live on the beach and live a subsistence lifestyle, I mean, they could harvest an animal off their porch if they so desire. But you're excluding miles of prime hunting real estate from subsistence users. And I don't know if you checked the price of the grocery store. Meat costs a lot. And I subsist a lot off of the land. I harvest deer and a moose if I can, but I do harvest deer. There's opportunity for people to harvest bear. I don't harvest bear, but I think it's a lot of land lost to subsistence use that isn't anywhere near anybody's homes. So that's my representation. And that's all I was here for. Thanks.
Hey, thanks for your testimony. Is there anyone else in the room interested in participating in the public hearing for ordinance 2024-04? Seeing none and no one's calling in, Clerk Thompson?
There's no
I
one.
mean, Clerk Regula? Okay, that public hearing is closed. We're on to bid awards. There are none this evening. Next item on the agenda is 7, and which is persons to be heard with items related to tonight's agenda. So if there's anyone in the room that would like to speak to items on tonight's agenda, step forward, state your name and who you represent. It's a 5-minute limit.
Good evening, everyone. Hello, my name is Andrew Mazzella. I'm speaking on behalf of my company Fierce Allegiance Development LLC regarding item E on the agenda, which is the lease transfer assignment from Ocean Beauty Seafoods to my company Fierce Allegiance Development. Some of you know me. I went through in depth a little of my background at the Harbor Board, and I hope everyone was able to listen to that regarding this. So I won't take too much time going back over that. But I did grow up in Petersburg, moved here at the beginning of 2nd grade through high school, graduating in 2005. And I continued here in the community commercial fishing for many years after that. The last several years, since about 2019 specifically, 5 years now, I've been looking for opportunities here in town to get my real estate and construction businesses involved in the community, and especially to provide opportunities for local businesses and individuals. I've been negotiating with Ocean Beauty Seafoods for nearly 8 months regarding the purchase of the bunkhouse at 18 Harbor Way, of which this lease assignment includes on their end. They currently are the leaseholder, and it's a pivotal part of the purchase of the bunkhouse, the 18 Harbor Way project. After the February assembly meeting that moved the initial request I had submitted, the initial application, it moved it to the Harbor Board for discussion and approval. I attended that meeting by Zoom, at which I am very thankful to the Harbor Board that they were able to thoroughly go through the original and my future intentions for the lease. We spent about 2 hours going through all the ins and outs of it. Again, very thankful to them for that. I went through very clearly what the benefits to the harbor and also the community will be. As I mentioned, I won't take a lot of time to reiterate that. I trust anyone that's interested, or especially the assembly had a chance to listen to that whole meeting as we went through everything. And as a result of the Harbor Advisory's consideration, they ultimately unanimously approved recommending the lease transfer from Ocean Beauty Seafoods to Fierce Allegiance, which is what's on the agenda today for the Assembly's final approval. And as I said, I want to sincerely thank the Harbor Board and the Harbor Master, and of course, all the Assembly members and all the community members who have deeply considered this request and acknowledged the benefits that I'm working to bring to Petersburg and especially the waterfront areas. Per the Harbor's Board's recommendation, I would expect and appreciate a unanimous approval of the lease transfer by the Assembly as a show of support for the project and my intentions in the community. Per the agenda item language, the only recommended term of approval on my end, my company's end, is to close, which in other words, take ownership of the property at 18 Harbor Way. As a sign of good faith, I decided to move ahead with that closing in advance of this meeting, and I took possession of the property on Friday, March 15th, which was 3 days ago. I'm incredibly excited to offer opportunities with that project. And in addition, I am very pleased to announce that additionally to that property, I have entered into a contract with Ocean Beauty to purchase all of their waterfront property across the street as well. This includes the pier, the waterfront cannery, the plant buildings, as well as the loading dock adjacent to the Burroughs parcel that is currently leased to Ocean Beauty, and that's directly related to these properties per the original 1980s agreement for this lease, and that's what is being requested to be assigned to Fierce Allegiance Development today. At the Harbor Board, I had mentioned in detail, I'm sorry, I already went through that. But again, my goal with all these properties and developments is to take the torch from Ocean Beauty and ignite business opportunities for local businesses and especially fishermen and fisherwomen and all related support ventures by the community. I look forward to working together with the borough, the assembly, the harbor departments, all the departments of Petersburg, and especially the citizens of Petersburg to boost and continue what this town is known for, which is the resources of the ocean and its unparalleled seafood. Thank you for your time and thoughtful consideration.
Thank you very much for your testimony. Is there anyone else in the audience that would like to participate in persons to be heard on items related to the agenda? You have step forward if you do. Seeing none, we'll move to item 8, persons to be heard with items unrelated to today's agenda. Is there anyone that would like to speak on items unrelated to today's agenda? Seeing none, we'll move on. Item 9, boards, commission, and committee reports. There are none this evening. Nothing listed under consent agenda. And item 11, report of other officers, Borough Safety Committee report. Committee Chairman Captain Holmgren has provided a written report on safety committee activities. So if you want to read it, it's on the agenda. Next item is item 12, the mayor's report. There is no written mayor's report tonight, but I would like to give a shout out to our Petersburg Vikings. The boys team took state, Region 2A state champion. So congratulations and thank you for representing your community so well. And with that, I'll turn it over to Manager Giesbrecht for his report.
Thank you, sir. Our water staff recently replaced an old high-pressure pump at the water plant. And we're clearing out alders that are getting close to the power lines feeding the City Creek Dam as some of our early spring projects. Staff supplied an ADEC contractor with maps and service addresses for a federally mandated lead service line inventory. State is helping various utilities with this effort through a grant that they received, so the work is being completed at no cost to the Petersburg Water Utility. We also got water department results from an initial PFAS sample of our raw water sources. This is that forever chemical that was used in firefighting foam. The level of PFAS was non-detectable across the board here in Petersburg. The department will still have to routinely sample when the final rule gets implemented, but this won't be for a couple of years. And based on our initial results, we will only have to sample every 3 years if our results continue to be good. Pump Station 4 loan application with DEC is moving forward, having passed a financial capacity analysis and environmental review. Project design is moving forward as well. Stephen Harbour has reported for duty to fill our vacant electrician operator position. It's great to have him on the staff and here in town. Department of Energy Hydro Efficiency Grant Administrator requested some additional pre-award information ahead of the metrics and milestones negotiation process. The negotiations process is focused on how each project owner will comply with reporting and milestone achievement during the work. Since our project is actually complete, it is more of a process to inform the Department of Energy what we accomplished and to prove that we have achieved the efficiency improvements required by the grant. Parks and Rec has installed a pool deck shower using some ARPA funds. This convenience is for a quick rinse before getting into the pool to swim and for cooling off during sauna use. We have a facility attendant position open in Parks and Rec. Hours are 1:15 p.m. to 9:15 p.m. Tuesday through Saturday. If you know of any great cheerful people we're looking for people for this position, please send them our way. Position will turn into a facility specialist position with a higher pay rate once lifeguard certification is acquired. Our employees in the PD have been going through CPR training, and the officers received less lethal training and pepper spray training last week. Aaron recently attended an Incident Command Systems or ICS data management training with the U.S. Coast Guard in Anchorage. This exercise targeted control of incoming information from ground crews, required reports, and effective records retention strategies. FEMA requires this information to reimburse state and local entities after an incident. Tlingit and Haida invited the Petersburg Volunteer Fire Department to attend their state tribal opioid conference. The conference covered drug trends within the state, effective tools to establish what, if any, a potential person or patient could be taking, and other special considerations when responding to a scene where drug paraphernalia may be present. The Sitka Sound Science Center, along with Tlingit and Haida, hosted a Southeast Alaska Regional Landslide Workshop to discuss how, as a region, Southeast communities can work together with our state and federal partners to inform the public of the dangers of landslides in Southeast. Parks and Rec staff and Aaron worked together on the 8th to perform an emergency sheltering setup drill in the community gym. This allowed Aaron and Stephanie to draw up how to organize and arrange the most effective system for public sheltering at Parks and Rec using the equipment obtained from the Healthy and Equitable Communities Grant. March 24th, the Volunteer Fire Department and the hospital will be hosting a wilderness first aid class at the fire hall. If interested, contact the fire station or PMC Wellness Office. Volunteer Fire Department is currently teaching a Firefighter 1 course for new members. There are 8 folks currently enrolled. These classes take place on Saturday and will run until completed. It's not too late to join if interested. Call the station for details. So a reminder, Volunteer Fire Department has an ongoing emergency trauma technician course. This is a hybrid course with online and in-person portions of the class. Contact the station if interested. I met with, on a phone conversation with Senator Murkowski's staff in DC to discuss the borough's congressionally directed spending request for next year. We discussed the hospital, Scow Bay generator, Scow Bay boatyard, and the Banana Point facility. We don't know yet what'll be submitted. I had the first meeting with the grant writer who will be working on the Denali grant for Banana Point. I'm working on getting letters of support from Wrangell and Breakaway Charters for the proposed maintenance of the facility. We had some back and forth a little bit about the size of the match. Initially was thought it might be as much as 50%, which would kill the project for us. Got a late email before this meeting that it's maybe as low as 10%. So we're trying to confirm that. To replace the booms out there is about a $600,000 project. So even 10% is some serious money. So anyway, I'll keep on it and we'll see what happens when we get more information. Department heads are working on finalizing their budget requests for next year. We still don't know the status of school funding other than they did not overturn the governor's veto this afternoon, or how this will impact the borough's budget. So this will be part of our budget process with the assembly. And I'm continuing to work with PIA and Tlingit and Haida Housing for a Petersburg housing project. Focus now appears to be the expansion of the airport subdivision, and thanks to Deborah and her staff, as well as Tlingit and Haida, I think we're starting to move forward. So and that's it, unless there's questions.
Any questions of the manager report this evening? Seeing none, we'll move to unfinished business. First item under unfinished business is ordinance 2024-01. This is an ordinance amending section 16.12.160, required authorization for disposal of borough real property of the Petersburg Municipal Code to increase the assessed property value requirement for sale of exchange of borough property to be ratified by voters of the Petersburg Borough. This is the third and final reading. And last meeting, it was amended from the $2 million to $1.5 million. So I would entertain a motion to approve ordinance 2024-01 in its third and final reading.
So moved.
Second.
Motion by member Stanton Gregor, seconded by member Schwartz. Discussion. Member Lynn.
Yes, yes, Mr. Mayor, I have an amendment I'd like to make. Excuse me. The last session, I said I would have one. My concern when I read this was the fact that we, first of all, as an assembly, have not been consistent about the information we've been providing to the public. Sometimes we've done it piecemeal, sometimes we've done it all at once, but not been consistent. And so when I read this and we look at A, B, and C, regardless of the process, either ordinance or resolution, we're selling it. I'm proposing an amendment E to it, and I'll read that, and I don't think Member Marsh has it in front of her, so. My amendment is an ordinance or resolution adopted under this section shall set forth the known terms of the proposed sale or exchange in sufficient detail so that the public is adequately informed and can appropriately comment on the proposed transaction, including 1, the legal description and street address of the properties. 2, the method of sale, competitive bid versus directed negotiated sale. 3, the identity of the purchaser, if known. 4, the purchase or exchange price, if known. 5, any terms of payment. 6, excuse me. The assessed value of the borough property and any property appraisal values known to the borough. 7, the public benefit of the proposed sale or exchange or explanation of how the sale or exchange is in the best interest of the community. 8, any anticipated development of the property. And 9, any safeguards established to ensure receipt of the anticipated public benefit or interest. And the reason for this is that I think we as an assembly have a responsibility to tell the public, both in writing and publicly, why we're intending to sell something if it's not at full value.
Okay, so that I take is the form of a motion to add section E.
Yes,
Is
thank you.
there a second to that amendment?
I would second that amendment.
Okay, motion's been made by member Lynn, seconded by member Stanton Gregor to amend ordinance 2024-01 to add an item E. Discussion on that amendment. See none, clerk call the roll. Donna?
Hey, thank you.
Member Marsh, just yell at me.
Okay, all right. So, it almost seems like this would be better attached to 2302, or sorry, 2024-02, but this is intended for the 2024-01. That's correct?
This is an amendment to 2024-01.
Or what?
Yes,
Okay, thank you. Would you, through the mayor, would you, member Lynn, explain how you came about this proposed amendment?
The question for member Lynn was how he came up with this proposed, amendment.
Yes, thank you.
Yeah, your volume is fading in and out for some reason, member Marsh. Member Lynn?
yes. I started through this ordinance, A, B, and C, and I made all kinds of changes to that. And then I went back to our attorney and was asked the question, is this consistent with other ordinances we have, and what do we need to do to make everything essentially consistent across the board, no matter how we sell property? And this is essentially what we came up with.
Thank you.
Does that answer your question, member Marsh?
Yes, thank you.
Okay. Any other discussion on the amendment? Clerk call the roll.
Jay,
Yes.
Bob,
Yes,
Rob,
Yes.
Donna,
Yes,
Thomas,
Yes.
Mark,
Yes.
Scott.
Yes. Okay, the amendment to ordinance 2024-01 passes unanimously. Now we're back to the main motion as amended. Any other discussion? Clerk call the roll.
Jay,
Yes.
Bob,
yes,
Rob,
Yes.
Donna,
yes,
Thomas,
Yes.
Mark,
Yes.
Scott.
Yes.
Thank you.
Okay, next item on the agenda is ordinance 2024-02. This is an ordinance amending section 16.12.030 of the Petersburg Municipal Code to allow for disposal of borough land for a public benefit purpose. This is the third and final reading. I would entertain a motion to adopt this ordinance in its third and final reading.
So moved. Second.
Motion been made by member Linton, seconded by member Fine Walsh. Discussion. Member Lynn.
yeah, Mr. Mayor, I have 4 amendments I'd like to propose on this ordinance on 02. The first one, and I'm going to take them one at a time.
I was gonna request that. I mean, that's how you have to do it, I think.
The first one is related to item B of that of that ordinance, where we specifically talk about 20 that were essentially residential housing developments of 20 residences or more. And I was comparing that back against the other part of this ordinance where on a commercial lot, you could actually go half acre, you could do something else. Here, we're looking at 20 or more. And then I was asking our development director, what does our current ordinance take? And essentially, we have everything covered up to four different residences on a particular piece of property. We don't really have much above that that's done. So my amendment I'm proposing is to change 20. But the reason for that is if you're looking at from an infrastructure standpoint of adding roads, water, sewer, et cetera, to it, does it make any difference to us whether it's 5 lots, 8 lots, 5, 8, 10 residences? So because as long as it can be done by a developer and that individual can meet the conditions, it shouldn't make any difference. So my motion is to change 20 to 5.
Okay, is there a second?
I'll second that.
Okay, motion's been made by member Lynn, seconded by member Fine Walsh to amend section B of ordinance 2024-02 from 20 or more residential lots to 5 or more residential lots. Discussion.
Yes,
Member Marsh.
thank you. I would propose that we change it to 1. Because if we can cut a deal for essentially a government subsidy, a discount for somebody to come in and build 5 homes, certainly they can cut a deal for somebody who wants to develop 1. And with that discount, the person might have additional funds or loan opportunities or use his own funds that he's acquired over time to spend it more on his home, utilities, and the driveway, or even the road to access that. So I think if we can do it for 5, we should be able to do it for 1.
Yeah, the way it's written in section B is 20 or more, so it would be 5 or more, so that could include 20 lots is the way I'm looking at it, so. Any more discussion on the amendment? Member
Yeah,
Fine Walsh.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Briefly, I to both points, I would support moving this down to 5. I feel like there's a threshold at a certain point, and just to clarify right there are kind of multiple types of development that would fall under this exception. One of those types, among others, is construction of large residential housing developments, creating 20 or more residential lots that would address the shortage of reasonably priced housing within the borough. Now, that's a pretty specific category. That's the category we're talking about here. And I think if we move that down to 1 residential lot, that would no longer constitute a large residential development. That would no longer really do much to address the shortage of housing in any way different than normal development of lots 1 by 1 does currently. I think the idea here, if the assembly or if the community is going to consider selling lots at below assessed value, the idea is that may attract developers who are interested in creating larger developments, not just 1 by 1 lots here. We're talking about the possibility that through economies of scale, which are only possible if you're doing a larger development, you'll be able to get cheaper lots on the market. That's kind of the goal here. And that's why that particular category exists. I think, I agree the number is it could be shifted, but I would agree, I think 5 is fine. I mean, you're still creating kind of a multi-unit development that would address, the shortage of housing, hopefully. I would hope that people would use this exception to create larger developments if possible. But there's no upper limit on that. So I see why I think the 5 is fine, but I don't think going below that really makes any sense. So I'll leave it at that.
Any other discussion on the amendment? Clerk, call the roll.
Mark,
Yes.
Donna,
No.
Thomas,
Yes.
Rob,
Yes.
Bob,
Yes.
Scott,
Yes.
Jay.
Yes.
Thank you.
Okay, the First Amendment to ordinance 2024-02, changing the language in section B from 20 to 5 passes with a 6-1 vote, with member Marsh opposed and member Lynn.
Yes, thank you. My second amendment has to do with C1 and the wording for everybody who's listening currently reads, if a disposal is initiated by application, the application shall include at a minimum a conceptual plan and development timeline. I would like to make 2 changes to that. And the reason I want to make the one change is that if a developer would come forward with a proposal and the assembly is really not interested, I think that's where it ought to stop, and not go forward, if whatever the proposal is. So what I'm gonna, and then my second one is I think there needs to be a financial plan here, but here's the way I want to reword it. If a disposal is initiated by application, the application, subject to assembly approval at a minimum, shall include a conceptual plan, a financial plan, and development timeline. So what I'm adding is subject to assembly approval and financial plan.
So is there a second to this motion?
Second.
Motion been made by member Lynn, seconded by member Stanton Gregor to change section C1. And member Lynn just read off the change. So any discussion on that? Seeing none, clerk, call the roll.
Scott,
Yes.
Tom,
Yes.
Donna.
No.
Mark,
Yes.
Jay,
Yes.
Bob,
Yes.
Rob.
Yes.
Thank you.
Okay, the second amendment to change section C1 of ordinance 2024-02 passes unanimously, or passes with a 6-1 vote, I believe. Member Marsh voted no. Okay, member Lynn.
Okay, number 3 here. Down under 2A, we talk about a fair market value appraisal of the property, including any borough-owned improvements determined by a certified real estate appraiser, assuming the property was sold without any development requirements that may be imposed pursuant to this section. I want to add a sentence to that, and the sentence would read, the applicant is required to pay for appraisal of the property.
Is there a second to that motion?
I second that.
Discussion on that amendment. So that's just adding one sentence of language that the applicant pays for the appraisal. Discussion? Seeing none, clerk, call the roll.
Rob,
Yes.
Mark,
Yes.
Bob,
Yes.
Jay,
Yes.
Scott,
Yes.
Thomas,
Yes.
Donna.
I believe that was a no vote. Thumbs up if it was a no. Okay, got it. Okay, so that amendment passes with a 6-1 vote with member Marsh opposed. Is there more?
There is one more, and I lost my thought here. Oh, yeah, I found it here. I have under C2, I'm going to propose to delete the second and third sentences. And for everybody's benefit here, I'll just read the number 2 here. Proposed disposal, if initiated by the assembly, or if the assembly wishes to move an application forward, shall be sent to the Borough Planning Commission for review and recommendation, including a public hearing. The borough manager may also refer a proposed disposal for review and comment to any applicable boards and commissions. And now it currently reads any Any disposal proposing an economic development project shall be reviewed by the Petersburg Economic Development Council following the receipt of Planning Commission recommendations as well as PEDC or other board commission comments. The borough manager shall prepare and submit to the assembly a written report and recommendation that at a minimum includes, and then it goes on, but my proposal is to eliminate the part, any disposal proposing an economic development project shall be reviewed by the Petersburg Economic Development Council following receipt of the Planning Commission recommendations as well as PEDC or other board or commission comments. And my amendment is to remove that because on the following part, the borough manager shall prepare and submit a report. But earlier, the manager can choose and decide how he wants to approach it. And I think that's the appropriate way to go. And if it's not appropriate to go to one of those others, I think that should be the manager's decision or choice.
So is there a second to removing that language?
I'll second that.
Second, a motion been made by member Lynn, seconded by member Stanton Gregor, to remove basically a sentence and a half of the section C2. Member Stanton Gregor.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Mayor. Member Lynn, if you could clarify, please repeat the exact words you wanted deleted from it, just so I can make sure I've got it tight.
Okay?
Thank you.
Start with any disposal proposing an economic development project shall be reviewed by the Petersburg Economic Development Council following receipt of Planning Commission recommendations as well as PEDC or other board or commission comments. That's the section I want to delete. It should be the manager's decision, in my opinion.
Thank you, Member Lynn, for clarifying that part, because then it picks up with the borough manager. Thank you for the clarification, sir.
Any other discussion? Member
Yes.
Marsh.
Thank you. If there had been a palatable point early on in this discussion, and I believe a couple of readings ago, it was presented that this very paragraph that Member Lynn is proposing to eliminate, or at least a portion of it, was a form of checks and balances that it had to clear a number of hurdles. I think by eliminating this, if I can say from the outset, the whole thing is faulty. But if this was a selling point, this elimination removes that checks and balances.
Okay, any other discussion? Member Fine Walsh.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I support this amendment. I think it trims a little fat. And to Donna's point, it does still leave oversight by planning and zoning and public hearing, let's see, I'm having trouble reading it right now. So any proposed disposal shall be sent to the Borough Planning Commission for review and recommendation, including public hearing there. And then there would be public hearings before the assembly as well. So those parts, Member Lynn's not proposing removing. Those would remain. And I support this amendment largely because the language removed is not, it doesn't really assert any obligation on anyone. It's more kind of the mayor may do this or may do that, and we know that the mayor may do that, whether it's here in this ordinance or not. So I think removing it really doesn't change the nature of the ordinance, and the public oversight section is definitely still intact.
Any other discussion on the amendment for section C2 of ordinance 200402? Clerk, call the roll.
Jay,
Yes.
Bob,
Yes.
Rob,
Yes.
Donna?
No.
Thomas,
Yes.
Mark,
Yes.
Scott?
Yes.
Thank you.
Okay, that amendment for section C2 passes with a 6-1 vote with member Marsh opposed. That brings us back to the main motion as amended. Any discussion on that? Member Fine Walsh.
Yes, I would like to propose one amendment myself, a very simple one to section F. This is in response to some of the conversation we had at the last meeting. I would like to replace the may in the first sentence of section F with a shall. As a condition of disposal and to ensure provisions of the anticipated public benefit, the assembly shall impose specific project requirements instead of may. Simple amendment, and that's what I propose.
Is there a second to that
Second.
motion? Motion been made by member Fine Walsh, seconded by member Lynn to change the letter or the word may to shall in section F. Clerk call the roll or discussion.
yeah, okay.
Discussion, member.
Thank you. So I'm still trying to process, our end goal here is we're essentially, selling land less than appraised value, or excuse me, assessed value, thank you, and it's public property. And we're doing this in the attempt to create more affordable housing to the end user. But and I'm totally open to input here, but I don't see anything that is going to dictate or any wording that will ensure that that's the case, that the value is, of the public land, the value is given to the end user and not the developer. Does anybody see it any different?
With respect to the member, we were on the amendment.
Well, we're still on the amendment for item F. So,
Oh, I'm sorry.
yeah, so I was gonna see, yeah.
Okay.
So.
Well, it's kind
This
of
is just-
related,
Yeah,
but
this is just to change the word in the second sentence of F from may to shall. May impose
right.
a specific and we shall, it'll say shall impose specific.
well, it is kind of related, but,
We're input on the amendment for that language change is where we're at right now. Member Newman, do you have,
I'll read it again here.
Member Schwartz?
Well, as the last meeting, people wanted assurances that if this happens, that there'll be roads built and sewer put in and water, and that's what you're looking at, right? How the land's gonna be developed, is that right, Scott? I mean,
I'm just trying to ensure that the value is given to the end user and it's not capitalized on by the developer. I mean, that's our goal. We need to ensure that.
Yeah, just to the amendment, I'll vote yes, and then to the main motion, I look forward to hearing from member Newman regarding the broader topics, so that works. That pleases the assembly. You're all good.
So, this discussion is about the amendment for section F to change the word from may to shall in the second sentence. Any other discussion on that? Clerk call the roll.
Mark,
Yes.
Donna,
Yes.
Thomas,
Yes.
Rob,
Yes.
Bob,
Yes.
Scott,
Yes.
Jay.
Yes.
Thank you.
Okay, and I couldn't quite hear, Member Marsh, was that a no vote as well?
That was a
Voted
yes.
That was a yes.
Yes, okay. So that amendment passed unanimously. Now we're back to the main motion as amended 5 times. And discussion on the main motion as amended.
Yes.
Member Marsh.
Thank you. I guess I would like to propose an amendment, in addition, to paragraph G, that would say something to the effect of, should in the event that the developer will use, fails to meet the obligations and does not meet criteria of affordable housing, passing on the savings to the end user, etc., there needs to be some consequences. Then the developer needs to come and pay for the difference between the assessed and the discount that they received from that. And I guess the second part would be, how on earth is this going to be enforced?
So you're proposing an amendment to add a section G. And, you're fading in and out.
Yeah, I'm sorry. If I can, I will text, Deputy Clerk Regula and she could read it. I will text her very quickly and maybe
Okay,
it will make more sense.
we're anxiously awaiting your text.
Thank you.
Remember Fine Walsh in the meantime.
Thank you.
But we
Mr.
don't even, no, this isn't, she's made a motion to add a section, so we're gonna wait until we get what she wants, and then we'll second it, and then we'll move forward.
Headed your way.
Got it. Okay, Donna's motion is propose that there needs to be assurances of affordability passed on to the end consumer, as well as there must be enforceability.
I'm not sure how that would translate into the form of a motion. But those are the ideas that I would like to incorporate if this were even remotely considered.
So,
I don't think, I guess what I'm saying is, I don't know that it's possible on either one of those points.
so what you're looking to do is add a section that would, make it mandatory in a sense that the developer develops these lots and keeps them affordable. So, I mean, how do you set a price
Yes,
range?
and yes, and should there not be that criteria met, then the developer would need to pay the difference between the assessed and what discount.
Okay, so I'm looking back, in section F, where it says a time frame for completion of these improvements or the project as a whole, price limitations. I'm wondering if price limitations is kind of what you're trying to get at, and I just don't know how you set that value and how you enforce it. You know, so if you get a contractor that comes in, buys five lots, 10 lots, whatever, put a number on it, and develops them, and you're gonna tell him what he can sell them for when he's putting in utilities, et cetera. So that gets pretty confusing to me, and I don't know if you can force somebody to do that. So anyway, so it's kind of hard. But I think people, the assembly probably has an idea what you're trying to propose as a section G, but without the written language, it's like kind of hard to, not only second it, but to, discuss it, in my opinion. So, so if that was the motion, is there a second? Seeing none, that motion fails. And this is the third reading, so it's unfortunate that, Member Marsh, you couldn't have got your idea in maybe earlier. And if you were in the room, you could probably jot something down, so.
Okay.
Okay, so we move forward. The main motion as amended. Clerk, call the roll. I guess
Okay,
we're,
Member Newman
no,
had
we're
his
not
hand
to
up.
that point. Oh, Member Newman.
I got one other comment. So this is an ordinance to allow for the sale for less than a assessed value. Is there a bottom limit to this?
I would think it's negotiated by the manager if we give them permission to go forward. If there's an applicant, the manager negotiation, then it has to come back to the assembly if I'm correct.
And through the mayor, and this is different than the other ordinance that the assembly passed before for tribal groups and government officials. That's a totally separate process, correct? That's how I'm reading that. Okay, so this is separate. This would be for the private sector, outside of other governments.
I believe this ordinance was put forward because of the Skylark proposed Skylark development.
Just wanted to make sure.
Member Schwartz.
Well, I think other boroughs and cities have been through this before, and Mr. Feinwald should worked down one road, and it talked about profit caps, and there was percentages, and after about 5 or 6 minutes, it was like some kind of trigonometry problem. Legally, I think there's a way to do it. It's pretty complex. This ordinance here tried to simplify all that, and I think he went through quite a bit of time with Ms. Cabrera on that. As complex as it was, I grasped most of it. But anyway, so that's all I really had on that. I mean, I think there is a very, definite, written in stone type of approach to this. But that's not what we're facing right now.
Okay, this is discussion on the main motion as amended. Member Stan Gregor.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Mayor. I spoke to some of these things in the first 2 readings, so I'll be brief. First of all, leave it on the table. I'm gonna be voting yes on this, but I do think it's a deeply flawed ordinance. So why would I be voting yes on a deeply flawed ordinance? Because it can't do any harm. Right now, we've been kind of flowing free form, and we've encountered problems of subjectivity, which we encountered on borough tidelands leases sales. This ordinance is no different. I think there is the vagueness around public benefit is highly subjective. That means the people in planning and zoning really decide what that means. And that does bring in the human factor, same thing on the assembly, but that can't be changed. And that is no different than it was before. I like some of the amendments that were made today. Not to be simple-minded also, if we pass this ordinance and realize we have had glaring errors in it, we can always do something else. It seems like, if nothing else, the first step towards getting the borough involved in these discussions and being a part of the policy for, at times, again, I don't see this being a very regular thing that's coming before planning and zoning or the assembly, or maybe it will, but it's a foot in the door for trying to make it easier for more housing and more affordable housing. So to put it simply, I figure we'll give it a shot, and if it doesn't work, we can do something else. Thanks.
Member Newman, did you want to add anything?
I'm good. I mean, I agree with all those comments. It is a good first step, and you gotta believe in the process that, this gives us the opportunity to revisit it if somebody approaches us, and it goes before the manager and then comes back to the assembly. So the future assembly will, be making the final decision. So I'm okay with it.
Member Lynn?
Yeah, I was about the same place that several other members are, that I was going to vote against it because I didn't see a real need for it. But the more I delved into it, I don't think it's going to be used very often. And if a potential developer would come forward, at least it lays out a process that they have to go through. And it gives, as the changes that were made and what's been done, it gives the assembly and the manager total authority to make changes, whatever you want to do. And so I've changed my mind. I guess I made a flip side saying, there's a process here. You have people, they'll make some decisions. Let's let it stand and see if anybody wants to take us up on it. And if it get more housing in town, I think that's great.
Okay, any more discussion on ordinance 2024-02 as amended? Clerk, call the roll.
Mark,
Yes.
Donna,
No.
Thomas,
Yes.
Rob,
Yes.
Bob,
Yes.
Scott,
Yes.
Jay.
Yes.
Thank you.
Okay, ordinance 2024-02 passes with a 6-1 vote with member Marsh voting no. And that brings us to item C under old business, and that's ordinance 2024-03. This is an ordinance adjusting the fiscal year 2024 budget for known changes in its second reading. I'd entertain a motion to approve this ordinance in its second reading.
We'll move.
Second.
Motion been made by member Lynn, seconded by member Fine Walsh. And before we get into the discussion, there was a, addition to this. Elderly Housing Director Lopez is requesting to add the elderly housing entrance repair project to the supplemental budget in the amount of $50,000. This money will come from the Mountain View Manor Elderly Housing Reserves to put the project out to bid. The design proposal prepared by Horion Associates to correct structural issues on the main entrance ramp and cover caused by rot and deterioration of the wood is attached. So there's a suggested motion, and I'd read it, but I can't make a motion. Member Lynn?
Yeah, Mr. Mayor, I move to add $50,000 of elderly housing reserves to the supplemental budget for the elderly housing entrance repair project, so the project may go out to bid.
Second.
Second.
Okay, motion been made by member Lynn, seconded by member Newman to amend ordinance 2024-03 to add $50,000 for the elderly housing entrance. Any discussion? Clerk, call the roll.
Donna,
Yes.
Rob,
Yes.
Scott,
Yes.
Thomas,
Yes.
Mark,
Yes.
Jay,
Yes.
Bob.
Yes.
Thank
Okay,
you.
the amendment passes unanimously. And I believe, member Giesbrecht, can you repeat what we talked about today when you said this was found during an inspection? So this was a request to have fixed?
Yes, sir. Yeah, we got written up on it. They noticed some dry rot and some areas that were starting to not fall down, but were not connected as well as it should have been.
So I just thought that information should be said publicly so that people listening are in the room know that we're not just throwing $50,000 at a porch to put a new paint job on. So, now we're back to the main motion as amended. So this supplemental budget is in its third and final reading. This is the one we had public testimony on earlier about the $60,000 for attorney fees. And there's many other, parts to this, supplemental budget. So, discussion, member Stanton Gregor.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. First, just a point of clarification, and for those listening at home, this is the second reading of this.
Oh, correct.
All good. Just, for those listening at home, don't get people get confused. Secondly, I will be voting for this. I want to acknowledge the department heads for their care and diligence in putting together this list of needed things. That's one of the challenges of a budget. Sometimes you need a supplementary for things that pop up. Yeah, I won't go through item by item, but I'll be voting yes today. Thanks.
Yeah, the first reading, I read all of the entries, but it's in the agenda if anybody's interested. And like member Stanton Gregor pointed out, this is only the second reading. And so this public has one more time to comment. So if there's no more amendments, will the clerk please call the roll?
Donna has a
I
point.
have a question.
Oh, yeah, just throw something
you.
on me.
Appreciate that. I would like to propose that we take the line item regarding the $60,000 and vote on it separately. I don't know what the will of the assembly is for that. I would propose that we would make that its own line item. vote.
So we're having a hard time hearing you, member Marsh. I think your proposal is to go through the supplemental budget line by line and vote on
No.
them?
No,
See,
it
that
would
we
be,
can't.
I'll text Clerk
Vote on the
Franklin.
$60,000 separately.
60,000.
Yes.
Separately, number 9.
So you would like to remove, section 9, the $60,000 budget for attorney fees?
Yes, thank you.
So that's a motion.
Yes.
Second.
Motion been made by member Marsh, seconded by member Swartz to remove item 9, I believe it is. Let me read it. transfer $60,000 to the borough's attorney fees budget to cover extra expenses incurred by the Kerr and Koenig's lawsuits. So that's what the motion and the second is, discussion on that proposal. Member Marsh.
Yes, if I may. It would make sense that, we pursue with caution, with the information and where we are. I hate to just give the go ahead. There are big issues.
Yeah, we can. Can't hear you, Member Marsh. So that's unfortunate, but,
So I think her text might clarify a little bit. She says she'd like to vote on the 60,000 separately from the rest of the budget. Not just remove it, but to have a vote on that
so
individually.
in a sense, that's what she's doing,
Yes.
isn't it? I mean,
Correct.
you know, so, I mean, make an amendment to remove it. There was a second, we had discussion, so if we're voting on it. Does that make sense?
Yes, just to have it on its own.
Okay, so you'll thumbs up if you're okay with moving forward. Okay. So the clerk call the roll.
I'd like to speak to this.
Well, what's that?
If we're going to do discussion on this amendment, I'd like to know if the member is comfortable, or the second, of why that makes sense to remove $60,000 out of the supplemental budget, I think. One, I'd like to hear that logic or reason so I can make an educated decision, and I think it'd be good for the public as well, if they feel comfortable doing so.
Yes, thank you. If I may, through the mayor. These are public funds, public resources, as all the money that we budget, with all the different line items. I just think we need to be extra cautious, when it comes to legal fees.
Does the second have a comment?
We're up here and I've heard a lot of comments from the community that it's nice to have a balanced assembly and, each one of us brings our own perspective. I would like it separated because I'm in favor of all of them except one. That's what. And so I'd like to separate them.
You know,
It's not my money. It's.
Just to be clear, we're not talking about separating. We're talking about a motion, an amendment's been made to remove it from the,
If you want to vote it on separately.
Right, so there's a motion, there's a second, and we're having discussion, and this is to vote to remove line item 9 from the supplemental budget. We are voting on it separately right now.
that's the motion, take it out of it.
This
We're all saying
motion,
the same thing.
this motion and amendment that was just made is to remove line 9, so it'll be gone when we vote for this ordinance as amended. That won't be in there.
The amendment passes, correct.
Correct, yeah, so that's where we're at. Member Marsh,
Thank you. There appears to be a misunderstanding. I would like to withdraw my motion. Thank you.
does a second agree with withdrawing?
Yes.
Second. Okay, so that's no longer an item. So any other discussion on the supplemental budget in its entirety? Clerk call the roll.
Donna,
Yes.
Rob,
No.
Scott,
Yes.
Thomas.
Yes.
Mark,
Yes.
Jay,
Yes.
Bob.
Yes,
Thank you.
Okay, ordinance 2024-03, corrected, only in its second reading, passes with a 6-1 vote with member Schwartz opposed. That brings us to ordinance 2024-04. This is an ordinance amending section 10.20.010, discharge of firearms prohibited of the Petersburg Municipal Code to remove prohibition of discharge of firearms in the area of Frederick Point East subdivision. This is also the second reading. So there will be one more reading and one more time for public comment. I entertain a motion to approve this ordinance. Is there a second?
Second.
Motion's been made by member Newman, seconded by member Schwartz. Member Stanton Gregor.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I was a little confused by this one out of the gates, and I had a conversation with Chief Kerr today. I was wondering, Chief Kerr, if I could defer to you to kind of tell me some of the history on this, kind of like we spoke of today, so for people listening at home, because I thought it was pretty valuable information, if you would, please.
Yes, from my understanding, this was in place from when they expected that whole area to grow. That hasn't happened. That's what created that no discharge of firearms. And basically now we're at the point of, when I calculate the land, it's roughly around 170 to just under 200 acres, but it's surrounded by roughly 1,100 acres of usable land that could be used by other members of the community. And so, that's why basically this has gone forward, and it's not against state law to discharge a firearm out there. It's against borough code. So if you were to discharge a firearm out there, you're not gonna get cited by the troopers, you'd get cited by Petersburg Borough. Because it's a borough code and troopers don't cite under borough code, but you would still lose your animals. Because if we cite you, it's taken in violation, so you have to turn it over. Or they can confiscate it. So it doesn't make sense, really. I mean, you have a small area down there, and my perspective on that is basically you can discharge your firearm out there by Papke's as long as you're outside that quarter mile of the road. So the people who live just outside that quarter mile can discharge their firearm out there without any problem. And then people who live down the Narrows, those houses are closer than these ones, and they can discharge their firearm down outside of the Kupernoff limits. So who are we to limit the use of Alaska state lands or some Tongass National Forest? So basically that's why it's out there. We want everyone to enjoy the resources, and nowadays everyone has OnX or some of these other platforms, and most of the people that I know, or actually all the people I know that hunt, they hunt responsibly. So we're using OnX, we're using all these things to find out where we're at so we don't get lost. There's a lot of it's because we don't get lost through some of this thick stuff. But you have that availability, you have your iPhone, so if you have it up and you have maps open, you know where you're going. And most people don't discharge around a house. And if it is a violation, then the state troopers can handle that. They can handle it like they would anything else out there by Papke's or down the Narrows. They can handle it like they would anywhere else. So this is just putting it along the lines of state.
Through the mayor, Chief, isn't it true? State statutes say you can't discharge a firearm towards a house.
Yeah, there's regulation
So-
prohibiting that stuff, yeah.
Thank you for that clarifier, Chief. I appreciate it.
Okay, any other discussion? Member Fine Walsh.
So yeah, just to make extra super clear here, so this wouldn't eliminate kind of a safety corridor that exists between occupied houses and maybe hunting grounds that currently is there? I mean, is that a possibility?
So just 100% clear, it'd be just like you would if someone was hunting down the Narrows by all the houses that are down the Narrows down that way towards Duncan. It'd be like someone up there hunting up there. I mean, it's just gonna fall along state.
Kind of bring it in line with other similarly developed areas on the island.
Yes.
Schwartz.
Land, I don't own a lot of, I own some land in Farragut Bay. We have land in Knig Slough, up Petersburg Creek, Farragut. And, we don't live there. And as much as I respect, Mr. Lindsay's perspective, there's going to be firearms discharged within the vicinity of our cabins. Because of where we are, it's bird hunting, moose hunting, there's deer hunting. Then that's the way it goes. Of course, I know most of the hunters, and growing up here, you spend an awful lot of time considering not peeing on somebody else's shoes, to put it mildly. But you try to be respectful, and I think that's what the chief is trying to say. And I can see your point, Mr. Lindsay, but I also understand it's Alaska.
Okay, is there any other discussion on this ordinance 2024-02? Clerk, call the roll.
Thomas,
Yes.
Scott,
Yes.
Jay,
Yes.
Bob,
Yes.
Rob,
Yes.
Donna,
Yes,
Mark.
Yes.
Thank you.
Okay, ordinance 2024-04 passes unanimously in its second reading. There'll be one more reading at the next meeting. Item E, under old business, assignment of Ocean Beauty Incorporated lease to Fierce Allegiance Development LLC. This was postponed from the February 5th meeting, so this is, we're taking it up again. So I'd entertain a motion to approve this lease transfer. Member
So
Stanton
moved.
Gregor.
Yep, I move to approve assignment of the Ocean Beauty lease contingent on the closing of the sale, which has already happened. The bunkhouse property located at 18 Harbor Way, the Ocean Beauty property to Fierce Allegiance Development LLC.
Second.
Okay, I see the suggested motion now, and Mr. Mazzella testified earlier, they did purchase the land, so motion been made by member Stanton Gregor, seconded by member Schwartz. Discussion. I have one comment to make, and thank you for your interest in development in Petersburg, Mr. Mazzella. So will the clerk call the roll?
Bob,
Yes.
Jay,
Yes.
Mark,
Yes.
Scott,
Yes.
Donna,
yes,
Rob,
Yes.
Thomas.
Yes.
Thank you.
Okay, the lease transfer is approved. New business, item 15. First item there is ordinance 2024-05, an ordinance determining that property conveyed to the borough in a tax foreclosure proceeding shall not be retained for a public purpose and shall be hereafter to be sold. Entertain a motion to approve this ordinance.
So
So
moved.
moved.
Second.
So this will take 3 readings. This is a piece of land, I believe, down Wrangell Narrows. So, any discussion? Clerk, call the roll.
Mark,
Yes.
Jay,
Yes.
Rob,
Yes.
Scott,
Yes.
Donna,
yes,
Thomas,
Yes.
Bob.
Yes.
Thank you.
Okay, that's approved in this first reading. Item B, under new business, resolution 2024-04. This is a resolution supporting Senate concurrent resolution number 10, SCR 10, introduced during the second session of the 33rd Alaska Legislature, establishing a joint legislative seafood industry task force with the inclusion of an elected official from a coastal fisheries interdependent community. So if this is adopted, there will be appointments made by the House, by the Speaker of the House, and by the President of the Senate, I believe, and they're moving forward with it. We'll see where it goes. So entertain a motion to approve this resolution.
Second.
Motion been made by member Newman, seconded by member Schwartz and member Len. Discussion. Clerk, call the roll.
Scott,
Yes.
Bob,
Yes.
Mark,
Yes.
Rob,
Yes.
Thomas,
Yes.
Donna,
yes,
Jay.
Yes.
Thank you.
Okay, that resolution passes unanimously. That brings us to item C, Scow Bay Generator Number 2 Designed, Build, Bid Package Professional Services Award. Utility Director Hagerman requests approval to award a professional services contract to Marine Services Incorporated to develop the Scow Bay Generator Number 2 Design, Build Package for an amount not to exceed $164,330. Entertain a motion to approve that contract.
Second.
Motion been made by member Stanton Gregor, seconded by member Newman. So this is for the additional generator design, Mr. Hickerman?
Yes, Mr. Mayor, that's correct. We've been working on adding diesel generation to help us with our standby capacity. I would like to offer one correction, though. I didn't notice this in the packet, but the motion was made to award this to MSI. They're actually the provider of the generator, Electric Power Systems is the consultant. Then we're looking at awarding this contract to DPS
So we have the wrong name listed
on the motion.
on
Yes.
the motion.
It's correct in the memorandum that I sent, but unfortunately, I just noticed that when you said that out loud, that the motion should be made to award to EPS.
Pardon me?
It should be, the award is to be made to Electric Power Systems, EPS.
Electric Power Systems. So we need to change that. It's not Marine Services
I
Incorporated.
would withdraw my motion if the second wanted to.
Yeah.
And just start fresh.
Yep, so that motion and second has been withdrawn. And
Wouldn't
one more time, for all those amendments in that one ordinance, it's made my brain fuzzy. So Scow Bay Generator Number 2, Design Build Bid Package Professional Services Award. And Utility Director Hageman requests approval to the award of professional services contract to, Mr. Hageman, state the name.
Electric Power Systems.
Okay, Electric Power Systems, to develop the Scow Bay Generator Number 2 Design Build Bid Package for amount not to exceed $164,330.
So moved.
Second.
Okay, motion been made by member Stanton Gregor, seconded by member Newman. Discussion. Clerk call the roll.
Donna,
Yes.
Thomas,
Yes.
Jay. Mark,
Yes.
Bob,
Yes.
Rob,
Yep.
Scott.
Yes.
Thank you.
Okay, that passes unanimously. Item 16, communications. There's a list of correspondence received since the February 20th, 2024 meeting. It's in the agenda packet, on the agenda packet, and we don't read them. So if a person's interested in seeing the correspondence, it's available to you. And item 17, assembly discussion items. Assembly member comments. Are there any assembly members with comments? None? Recognitions, any recognitions by assembly members? Seeing none, entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Second.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? I gotta throw that in there. None are opposed. Thanks for your support, Bob. Wow, appreciate it. Thanks for the amendments.